Days with My Stepsister might be the surprise of the season for me. I'll be honest, I judged it on the title, which I'm pretty sure most people will do, given the whole stepsister or sister trope in anime. I watched the first couple episodes and I was pretty surprised how deep it was. I'll just go ahead and say I went straight to the manga. There's only like 18 chapters. And then I figured out where the books were. I ended up reading the entire fourth light novel because that's where the manga left off, is like the beginning of the fourth. And I read it in one night. This story definitely got me sucked in a way that I wasn't expecting. So I'll not give any spoilers because I think this is one you should just go watch yourself. But the premise is that Yuta Asamura lives with his dad. His dad is single now because his parents are divorced. And Saki Ayase lives with her mom. It's the same thing. Their parents get married. These two become step siblings who are 17 years old. They're in their second year of high school. It kind of leads you into thinking it's going to be just like all the other tropes. There's a show that I actually think is funny called My Stepmom's Daughter is My Ex. Obviously, you have the whole situation that comes up a lot in anime where the sister is somehow not blood related, or even if she is blood related, she's a little bit weird, pretty inappropriate, but people like the whole taboo thing, whatever. And this show takes that trope and just makes it serious. And the reason that it works is because the main two characters are really interesting. And it's a pretty introspective show, I would say, or series. And if you look at the Wikipedia, it's listed as a rom-com. I would say it's much more of just a drama and kind of a character study. So there will be vague spoilers, but this is all stuff you get pretty early on, and then you get more detail later. The main crux of the story and the kind of their character work is that Asamura, his mom was just horrible to him. Like in the book, he talks about how she was abusive and he was grateful when she neglected him, and she just hated his dad. So he got to see all the terrible stuff about divorce, and his mom just went and cheated on his dad, gave him divorce papers, didn't give a shit, had no interest in money or having time with him, just fucking left. So you get this kid who obviously has this messed up background, and he's pretty detached, at least on the outside. He's like kind of considerate because that was what he tried to do to make his mom love him, essentially. So his background has made him very anti-women. And he talks about how his dad went through a phase where he hated women. He didn't ever trust them because of everything that happened with his mom. And then obviously Saki's mom, or Ayase's mom, helped him get over that. That's kind of how they met. So he's kind of just shut himself off to even the idea of romance. He's never had feelings for anybody. He has a couple of friends, but he's kind of emotionally stunted, obviously, because of his background. And then for Ayase, she went through something very similar, where her dad was an entrepreneur, ended up kind of going bankrupt. The mom started working as a bartender, so she was working overnight and ended up being successful enough to take care of them, even though he was having a hard time. The dad obviously became like jealous of the mom and resentful and bitter and called her a whore and all the stuff that you would imagine in that type of situation. So her whole thing is she doesn't like essentially people being judged on just appearances or sort of the bitterness that comes with success, no matter how you obtain it. I would say this is kind of feminist messaging, but I don't particularly mind because of the context. But she talks about how, if you're a successful woman, but you don't have a husband, people are like, oh, but she doesn't even have a family. But if you're a woman who gets by on her looks, they call you like a leech exploiting men with your looks. Or if you're just a stay-at-home mom, well, then you're just a parasite who's not really done anything with her life. I don't know about Japan's culture. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that. But I think that's a generally fair critique of society as a whole. Now, how much you buy into it and how much you think it's relevant, I think is all up for debate. But those people clearly do exist who say things like that. So you get these two characters that are really similar with really messed up backgrounds in this situation where they do feel comfortable with each other. And obviously they're growing closer. But the reason I said this show takes it seriously where others don't is because they're both trying to work through essentially how fucked up they each are. Like they're trying to figure out, am I having romantic feelings for her? Or is she just the first girl I've ever been close to? And she feels the same way about him. You have the whole dynamic of him not really knowing how he should treat her mom because he doesn't really want a mom because of his bad experiences with having one. They talk a lot later on in the story about the idea of dealing with the taboos of society, even if it's not actually immoral or really unethical. Like it's something they both consider internally in the book is the idea of like, would this embarrass their parents? Would this mess up their family? Do they want to risk their family for their own romantic feelings when both of them have had such bad situations and their parents found each other and seem happy now? How much does doing something that society looks down on impact your decisions and impact you? Like, is that something that you can withstand if you believe what you're doing is right, but society would look down on it? Because in the situation they're in, obviously they're not related. They didn't meet until they were pretty much adults. If they dated and had kids, people would probably call it incest and really give them a hard time, even though I don't really think they've done anything wrong. It's just kind of a weird situation. So this debate is had in the book. And one of the best parts of the story, I think, is Ayase's arc. And you can see where this is going very early on. Maybe it's a vague spoiler, I guess, but it's probably my favorite part is that Ayase has this whole arc where she conflates being independent with isolated. So she's really detached and really cut off from everyone around her, somewhat at her own expense. Obviously, it's detrimental to you to function in society that way, just completely alone, no friends, no communication. There's just a lot that you miss out on. And you see this in the anime really early on. It's something that she progresses through slowly. But this show, I think, is pretty steady progress as far as the characters and the story. You don't get a ton of resets or anything like that, at least so far. But it's definitely a show that takes its time and the characters are thought out and they're not like super impulsive, but it doesn't ever feel like it's dragging. Like they're both trying to work through their own issues and it just takes time. And there is a really good conversation they have too, where they talk about, I'm not going to expect anything from you, so don't expect anything from me. And they both don't really realize at the time of the conversation how walled off they are emotionally. And this is kind of something that really recurs throughout the series is these types of conversations and sort of self-reflection on, is what I'm doing actually hurting me more than it's helping me? Or is kind of like living in denial going to make the bad memories go away? And something they both struggle with as well is, am I growing close to the other person in a more sibling way, or am I growing close to the other person in a romantic way? Because they're both so emotionally distorted that they're worried that they can't differentiate and that they might be getting it wrong. I'm going to leave it there for that. I don't want to say too much. I kind of feel like I've already said a lot and try to not give specific spoilers, but I did want to talk about why I like the show so much and the books also. So this one for me is one of those I just saw people posting about over and over, and I was like, fine, I'll put it on. And then I went on a fucking bender. So I would absolutely recommend it. If you've seen the show, let me know what you think. I try to respond to all the comments that aren't insults, like and subscribe and all that shit. Thanks. See ya.